thinking is fine, but you need to be pragmatic. You need to act, that's the most important thing.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Strong Stoic Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Tumblin. Today I have the privilege of talking with Naya. Naya is a psychologist and cognitive behavioral therapist. Of course, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is built on Stoic principles. So we talk about Stoicism today. We talk about CBT, Stoicism, psychology, Carl Jung, the nature of accepting the evil within you, and we even confess our nerdy sides a little bit. So I had a lot of fun talking to her. I hope you enjoy it.
I practice cognitive behavioral therapy, and this therapy, what I like about it the most is that it's focused on the present, and it's focused on changing your thoughts so you can change the way you feel and you can change the way you act. So as I was studying this therapy, I realized I don't remember exactly how it was, but I remember that I read something about Seneca in my studies, and I was like, "Who is Seneca? What does he do?" And I realized that Stoicism is actually the base of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's based on changing the way you perceive the world and the way you can change actually your reality. I mean, not changing your reality in fact, but you can change the way you perceive your reality according to your thoughts. And to me, that was like, oh my God, this is super interesting. And I think I start to like Stoicism because all the things that are related. So yeah, I think that's the root that you're talking about. But cognitive behavioral therapy has absolutely its roots on Stoicism. Yes. What do you think about, or what do you want to?
No, well,
What do you want to know about?
it sounds so obvious, like now that, you change your thoughts and it makes it can manifest itself into making your life better. But like, I think we underappreciate how long it took for humanity to actually learn that, right? Because for the longest time, it was all about externals. It was all about, what your parents are telling you, what the village is telling you, what God is imposing upon you, as opposed to what you can actually do and think for yourself. So like, it sounds so obvious to modern people, yet it took so long for people to actually, like humanity as a whole, to really understand that. So what do you see as being with your clients and stuff, what do you see as being, like, if you could say, I know it's very complicated, but like one issue that you see, it's like, this one drives me crazy, everyone does this, like, come on, like, what would it be?
Well, I think the first things about psychology is that people don't believe actually in psychology. It's like if you were making kind of, I don't know, like if you were telling them like their zodiac sign, and it was not science, and that's the first problem. Like, I don't believe in psychology, so I don't go because it's for crazy people, or it's not science, and it's not like that at all. I mean, psychology it has its roots in science, it has a method, and it follows some steps. So actually, it's a science. So first step that you have to, or the first problem that you front in with your patients is that they actually don't believe it works. And when you don't believe something works, it's like the placebo effect. It doesn't work. It's not going to work. So I think that's a challenge to convince people that mental health and going to a psychologist is not for crazy people, is not for people who need, to be medicated. Actually, mental health or psychology is for people who want to learn how to manage their feelings, like to be intelligent, emotional, and I think that's a problem with people, the first. And the second problem that I can see random is that when some people come to therapy, they actually want to see results immediately. And that's absolutely impossible. Because when you go to therapy, you need to understand that it's a process. And the first step that you need for a change is to accept that you need a change. So when they go to therapy and they want you to tell them, oh, this is my problem and I want you to fix my problem. And no, that's not how therapy works. You need to fix it for yourself. So me as a therapy, I don't want you to depend on me. I don't want you to be the person or the thing that makes you feel good. I want you to be a factor that can change your life. I'm gonna give you homeworks. I'm gonna give you I don't know, you have to study in your house, and people don't want to change. I mean, they want the change, but they don't want the work. And that's the second problem that I can see. Yes, it's very hard.
Yeah, so that's very true. So the first thing they're believing in it. That's really hard to change. So psychology, just for people who maybe wouldn't be familiar with the term, is basically like the study of the mind, right? And so like
Actually, yes.
it is like it gets back to like this thing that I think about quite a bit, which is any philosophy or religion that you take on, it's always based on faith. And what that means is that
Yes.
if you practice something, you don't really know for sure if it's going to make your life better. Now we know we can look at history and we can look at like previous clients we've had and we can say, okay, this is probably going to work for you. But there's still that element that like we can't prove it. And because I think we can't prove it, it takes it's hard for people to sort of take that leap of faith, even though it works like most of the time, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely an issue. And then yeah, doing the work is such a hard problem because there's nothing you can do for someone else. They have to actually like you can like educate them, you can inform them, you can give them steps on what to do, but you can't actually do it for them. Like I used to coach weightlifting and it's like you can tell people to stretch, you can tell people to do this and that. But at the end of the day, I can't go home and like do it for them. They have to go home and do it themselves. And so
Yes.
it's very similar with therapy. So like what have you found like for anyone out there that say they know that like they're trying to make a change, they're trying to implement some things, but they're struggling with the actual action because it's not even like they don't want to. Sometimes I think people like they want to, but they just find themselves not doing it over and over again. So like what tricks have you found to sort of get people to actually do it? Like
Well, I think the thing that is most important is to have discipline. I mean, discipline makes everything different. You know, sometimes people come to therapy and they arrive to therapy very motivated and they want to change their life and they feel very excited and they are like, oh yes, I want to do this and that. And but you have to you do have to you need to have discipline on your life, you know, and to have discipline you won't be motivated all the time, and that's the second fact that I will say that it works. You need to tell them that being motivated, it's of course we sometimes we wake up and we are very motivated to go to work, but I will be lying if I tell you that you will be motivated all the time. That's a lie. You know, sometimes you will feel sad, you will feel bad, you will have a messy day or a bad day, but it is not about the motivation. It's about discipline, because disciplines is going to take you to the habits, you know. And if you want to change your life, everything starts with the habits. You become what you constantly repeat in your life. I don't remember if Aristotle say that, but I agree with him, because if you do something one day and the other day you don't, and it's going to be a mess, because you need a routine in your life. You know, you need to have this structure, you need to have these habits if you want to change the way you think, the way you act, and of course the way you live your life. So habits are, to me, the most important thing. And have self-discipline, because if you are thinking that your motivation is going to get you to a change, well, you are very lost, you won't get anywhere.
yeah.
Yes, that's very
Yeah, I
important.
think discipline is so important because it's like you said, it's easy to do things when you're motivated, but it's when you don't want to do it and you're not very motivated. That's when the discipline comes in. But I think there's a caveat there that we have to talk about, and that's if you find yourself missing something. If, for example, you want to get up every day at 7 a.m. and you miss a day, that doesn't mean that you throw everything out. That doesn't mean that you say, okay, well, because I missed this one day, I'm just gonna go back to doing my old habits. So the discipline thing is important, but I think it has to come with forgiving yourself and having compassion for yourself understanding that you're not perfect and you're going to make mistakes. So be disciplined, but also, you're human, you're not a robot. So it's good to reconcile the
Exactly.
two.
Yeah, I think the point in therapy is when people come to therapy, they think that when they finish their therapy, their life is like solved. Okay, I went to therapy, I'm all fixed, my life is going to be very happy from now on, and it's not like that. I mean, you go to therapy because you want to learn the abilities to make your life better, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to face problems, that you won't have a depression eventually, that you won't have your heart break or something like that. Therapy gives you the skills of how to face those situations with better emotional intelligence, but that doesn't mean that your life is going to be perfect. I think that's the third thing that the people have to understand. People are going to give you your skills, your cognitive skills to act different and in a more properly way, but that doesn't mean that you won't have problems. And you don't have to see the things in black and white. You know, people tend to think that, oh, it's everything good or it's everything bad. And it's not like that. Life is like a roller coaster. Sometimes you're going to be down, you're going to be up, and you have to accept the fact that you are human and you're going to make mistakes and you are going to be wrong sometimes. And that doesn't take away all your effort or all your progress, and that's a very important part, because you have to stop being so judgmental with yourself. And like you said, like, you need to forgive yourself for your mistakes. And okay, it's fine, you can make mistakes, and you be an awesome human being, but also you are human and you're gonna get wrong sometimes, and that's important that you forgive yourself. I always make this exercise when I have I don't know, when I do something wrong, or when I think that everything's going bad, and I am so hard to myself, but I think, like, I imagine, what if my mother, what if my friend, what if my daughter have this problem, and I try to speak myself as the way I will speak to them, and you become more compassionate, more kind to yourself, because obviously you won't speak with hard words to the people that you love. So you have to love yourself and speak yourself and treat yourself the same way that you speak to other people, the people that you love. To me, that exercise give me a lot of perspective and put me in a right place. I think that's very important, and a lot of people could make that exercise. Yes.
Yeah, well, that's funny that you say that, because I've had people question me, because I say sometimes that I've gotten better at compassion, and people
Yes.
question me. They always say, well, how do you get better at compassion? They think it's something that you have or you have not. And, one of the things I'd say was like, okay, anything you practice, you can get better at, right? And compassion is included. So like, if you want to become more compassionate in general, what you do is you first focus on where you have compassion, because most people have compassion for someone. And if you don't, you're a, sociopath. So like, most people do. So like, for example, you might have compassion for the elderly, or you might have compassion for children who have really bad parents. And so what you have to do is you have to find that compassion in them and where you have compassion, and then from that you can grow it, and you can apply that compassion to other people through understanding them. And so like, if you can feel compassion at all, you absolutely have the capacity to get better at that and feel compassion for other people, for your friends, for your enemies, and for yourself. And like what you're talking about there, where you need to have compassion for yourself, like, that's exactly it. Like, I'm hard on myself too. I'm really hard on myself, but it's like, would I beat my brother up for this? Would I make my sister feel bad if they did something like this? It's like, no, I wouldn't. I'd tell them they did something wrong, but I wouldn't like shame them, and I wouldn't like them any less. And so many
Of
people
course.
treat themselves so much worse than really than they deserve in some ways.
Yes, and for that to happen, you need to take away the guilt. You know, I always tell my patients that guilt is not gonna take you anywhere. Of course we all make mistakes, but the thing in the mistake is not the mistake indeed. It's like, okay, I made a mistake. I'm going to recognize what I did wrong, and I'm going to try to fix it. Because if you stay in this stage of guilt, you're going to be feeling so bad. You won't be able to move, to react, or maybe you're going to be like reactive. A reactive person is a person that doesn't think of their actions, and you need to be proactive. Okay, I made a mistake. I recognize that I made a mistake. That's the most important thing. How can I fix it? What am I going to do about it? It's about taking responsibility for what you do. And going to therapy is taking responsibility for your actions. And that's very hard, Brandon, because people don't want to take responsibility for their actions or even their own lives. It's very hard to take responsibility on your own life, because when you go to therapy, some people tell me, and this is what I like about behavioral therapy, is that, oh, when I was a child, I don't know, my father was so mean with me, my mother was so mean. And it's like, no, I mean, you are not a product of your circumstances. You can change that. You are an adult now, you're not a kid anymore. You have the power to change your life, to change your, I don't know, the way you feel, the way you act. And that's very hard, because when you tell them that you have the responsibility of your life because you are an adult, it's like, wait, no, I don't want that. I mean, I want to feel better, but I don't want to take the responsibility. It's better that I can give that responsibility to my circumstance, to my father, and they don't want to work in that. It's a very hard process to take responsibility of your own life, because that means, what it's gonna take you, that the things that you do, if you do a right thing and it comes in a good terms, you're going to be great. But what if you make a mistake? What if you get wrong? It's absolutely your responsibility. And that's very hard, because we, like, as people, we love to feel good and feel pretty all the time. But suffer is necessary, Brandon, so you can grow up. If you don't suffer, not even a little bit, you won't appreciate the good times that you have in your life. And it's necessary, but people don't like to feel pain, don't like to have this little suffer, this little discomfort in their lives, and it's necessary to grow.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true that people it's and I want to make it clear that, like, when we're talking about people, I think I can speak for both of us. We're talking about us as well. Like
Yeah, of
this is
course.
things that, like, everyone has to struggle with. But yeah, it's because it's so easy when you say it's not my fault, because when you say it's not my fault, it means someone else has to fix it, or someone else doesn't have to fix it.
Of
And
course.
even if it's not your fault, like, okay, like, we can, because maybe fault is not the best word, because we can say, okay, if you were abused as a child, that's not your fault.
Of
But
course.
fault does not mean responsibility. So even though it's not your fault, it's still your responsibility as an adult to fix that, right? And
Of
so
course.
it's like the stoic way of thinking about it would be, well, it's an external, and it's like, I can't change what that's doing to me, but what I can do is I can change what I think and what I'm acting on. And so I wanted to circle back a little bit, because I think so many people are probably listening and nodding their heads and like, yes, this all makes sense. But, like, I want to talk about what that feels like when you wake up in the morning and you've slept in 2 hours, like you failed. So you have this goal. Let's say I want to get up every morning at 7 a.m. And then the first morning, let's say you do it steady for 5 or 6 days. And then on that seventh day, you mess up, you make a mistake, you sleep in, you wake up, you look at your alarm clock, and you're just like, you're depressed, you're upset because you failed on your goal. Like, that moment is like, that's the one you have to get through, right? So, like,
Yes,
what so
yes,
like
yes.
what so what do you do? Because that doesn't feel good. It never feels good when you have that moment. But, like, you're in that moment, you failed, you failed, you're at the lowest point. What's the mentality that gets you out of that and moving back in the right direction?
Well, what we do in cognitive behavioral therapy is we give our patients, or my patients, I give them these diaries, as the Stoicism have, and you have to make a goal. Like, you have to wake up with a mindset, with your mind put on a goal. Okay, I'm going to wake up every morning at 5 p.m. But you have to, in your book, in your notebook, you put Monday, Tuesday, and you put I don't know, you mark the times you do and the times you don't, right? But it's like, how can I explain you? It's like this process where it doesn't matter if you don't do it every day, you know. The point is that you have the feeling and you have the will to do it. And you need to make my patients understand that it's okay if you fail one day. I mean, I think most people aim to perfection. And I don't think that is the point of being a human being. You know, you won't be perfect, even if you try. I think you can become a virtuous person, but right, but not a perfect person. Because even a virtuous person needs some flaws to know that you are virtuous. If you don't have flaws, how can you know that you are virtuous? You know, you need the bad and the good. So there'll be a balance, and there's this line in the middle. So I always tell them it's fine. Okay, you skip one day. It's totally fine. Okay, wake up, do your homework, do your work, do whatever you need to do, and try to keep the habit. You know, the habits are everything. It doesn't matter if one day you did the habit or the other day you didn't. Just try to keep on track, and it's going to get easier because as everything in life, it gets easier with practice. You know, I mean, I wasn't born as a psychologist. You weren't born with all your knowledge, and you need to learn. You have to be able to have this open mind to learn of your mistakes, and it's fine. You will have mistakes constantly in your life, and it's okay. It doesn't matter what you do one day. It won't define you. It's the 80% of the time, or the things that you do at 80% of the times that defines you. Actually, the other 20%, of course, you can make mistakes. It's like when you're on a diet, for example. You know, you can follow your diet like 70%, and you have your cheat meal, and it is 30%, and it won't define you. It won't happen. It's not that bad. I think we people tend to do the thing bigger in our minds. You know, it seems worse than it really is. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you're on a diet and you want a hamburger one day, eat a hamburger. It won't affect the other 80%. You know, you can be this perfect person. You just feel yourself, and it's fine. And I think you need to teach teach your patients to understand that you don't want to be perfect. You want to be human, but you want to be a virtuous human, and you need to practice. The only thing you can get better or is your skills is practicing. Practicing makes you, it's going to make you better. You know, it's not even your talent. I think it's the way you practice what you have.
Yeah, I love that, because basically what you said was the way of dealing with that terrible, terrible moment when you failed is by preconceiving it, is by knowing that is by meditating on the fact that you are going to fail sometimes beforehand, so that when you do fail, it's not the end of the world, and you're not going to feel great about it, but you're going to realize, okay, this is actually in line with reality, because I thought about this and I knew I was going to fail. So now it hurts, but I'm going to keep going. It's part of the plan. You know, I had this idea the other day that I used to say that you should choose a goal that you know you can complete 100%. But I don't think that's accurate anymore. I think I've changed it a little bit to choose a goal that you know you can get around 90% of the time.
Yes.
Because what you're doing then is what you said, you're allowing for failure in the process, which is going to happen. And if you do pick a goal that you can get 100% of the time, it's not ambitious enough, because you could easily say, okay, here's a goal, wake up every single day. It's like, okay, well, you know, you have to wake up unless you're going to sleep 24 hours a day. So you're going to be successful at that 100% of the time, but it's not even ambitious at all. Like there's no actual goal. So you're setting the target way, way, way too low. So it's like you want to find a goal, you don't want to find a goal that's too ambitious that you're going to fail 20% of the time, or fail 80% of the time, but you don't want a goal that's too easy that doesn't provide any value to your life. So it's like finding that middle ground.
Yes, and I think that is very important to know. Like you can go from one to 100. You know, it's not like you go to therapy and I'm going to give you this homework and you want to wake up this day at, I mean, no, okay, let's take calm. Maybe you want to wake up every day at 5 p.m. Well, okay, maybe we will try like 7 p.m. right now, or 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. I'm sorry. So we need to take step by step, because you can go to 0 to 100. So calm down, take it slowly, and change, Brandon. I think it's a process. It's a process. It's not a process that just comes with the morning, that one day you wake up and everything is perfect and, oh my God, I have this introspection and everything is going to be fine. No, that's what is this important rule. You can go to 0 to 100. I mean, you need to keep that in mind. And if you do something better every day, if you change maybe one bad habit, it's gonna get you like from 0 to 20%, from 0 to 30%, and eventually you will be in 100%. I think the problem is not getting to the goal. I mean, that's very easy. You can get there very fast. The problem, or the most important thing, is that you need to maintain there. You know, maybe if you want to have a great body, you will. I mean, you do exercise, you get on a diet, and it's not about doing just 6 months or 1 year. If you want to stay in that style of life, you need to be constant, and constant is going to make you a better person. It's going to give you these habits that it's going to work for you.
Yeah, that's so true. I want to move on a little bit to talk, because we spoke. I wanted to bring up Carl Jung psychology, because I love Carl Jung, and I know you love Carl Jung. So I got
I love it.
Yeah, he's amazing, and I got a book here that I'm going to flash to the camera just for those at home. It's Depth Psychology and a New Ethic. This is actually Eric Newman, which was a student of Jung's, and I also got Modern Man in Search of a Soul, 2 books which are really great to read. But I want to talk about some of the ideas that Carl Jung had and also Newman had, you know, which were similar because he's the student. So they had this idea that we all have good and evil within us, which is nothing crazy. We all know that, right? We all say it. Hitler loves dogs, but we still fail all the time to come to terms with our own evil and to come to terms with other people's goodness that we feel are evil. And so they had this idea that the highest value, this is sort of in line with what we were just talking about, the highest value is not perfection, it's wholeness. And wholeness means that you are accounting for a little bit of failure. And in the good and evil sense, you're accounting for a little bit of evil. Now, that's something that's very hard for people to accept, that you actually have evil within you and that you are capable of evil. And so, like, what's this ringing for you? Because I know you love Carl Jung, and I know you're probably very anxious to talk about Carl Jung.
I'm very anxious. Yeah. Well, I think Carl Jung had this conception of good and evil, and he used to call it the light and the dark, right? Like we all have darkness in ourselves. And I think what I like, I wasn't such a fan of Carl Jung at the beginning, because I'm not such a fan of psychoanalysis, you know? I think it's a therapy that it just takes too long. Well, regardless that, when I started to read Jung and I realized about these topics of dark and light, and it's like you can find with these talks in every other cultures, you know. It's not specific, because Jung also like to read Taoist, you know, like the Yin and Yang. Actually, he was based on the Yin and Yang a lot. So yes, I think what I like the most about this topic is that I understand, according to what he says, that we have emotions, you know, and we sometimes we put them in these I don't know, these names, like these are good emotions and these are bad emotions, and that's like a complete different poles, and it's not like that at all. And you have this happiness and you have this sadness, and John said that it's pretty much the same. You know, it's not a different emotion. It's just the level that that you put in that emotions. So he say that there must be a balance, and there is this line between both, so they can coexist. If you don't have sadness, you won't be able to feel happiness. And I think that's a very important thing to know, that emotions are not something that you should be ashamed. Your darkness, of course, we all have evil. We are not perfect. We are humans. And but it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. Of course, it will be a bad thing if you let your evil control your life. But you need this evil to know that there is good in your life, good in your thoughts, good in everything. So the point in here is that you don't have to repress nor either the sadness or the happiness, the light or the darkness. You need to make a balance, and you need to accept that. And in order to grow up, you need to accept that you have this darkness. But as I was telling you, people don't like to feel, or we, I talk for myself, we don't like to feel uncomfortable, you know? We want to feel amazing all the time, and it's not real life. You need to get in touch with your darkness, with knowing that you are capable of doing maybe bad things, or having bad thoughts, or having bad feelings about a person, about yourself. And the moment that you accept your darkness, I think is the moment that you can also aspire to the light. You know, if you don't accept your darkness, if you think that you are perfect, if you think that you have to repress those emotions, you're never going to be on the light side. You know, that's what I love about Carl Jung. It's very honest about what we are as humans, you know, darkness and light. And we need to have this balance. And sometimes you will be more dark and you will be more light. And it's okay, as long as, especially, you don't feel controlled by your darkness. You know, I think darkness, it exists so you can aspire to be a virtuous person, to be in the light. So yes, I really love Jung.
Yeah,
What do
well,
you think about him?
oh, I love Carl Jung, and I love Eric Newman as well. That book I just showed, Depth Psychology and a New Ethic. So he described this sort of suppression of the dark side in two ways. He said, well, there's suppression, which is you're conscious of it, so you know, for example, that you have some evil within you, but then you try and like you don't let it out ever. So you just kind of put it in the back of your head and you try and ignore it. And eventually something happens and you blow up and then you let it out and you do something just terrible. And then so that's
Yeah,
bad.
you go crazy.
You go crazy, yeah.
Yes.
But then there's also repression. And this is the more scary one. Repression is when you do that, so you suppress it and you have it in the back and you ignore it for so long that you're no longer conscious of it, so you don't even know
Yes.
anymore. So it's kind of like when someone you see someone or you meet someone new and they're just really rude and they don't know they're being rude, like they just
Mm-hmm.
don't, they're not conscious of it. And so
Yes, 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 yes.
so basically, like Young, well, Newman and Young believe that like if you suppress it, if you don't find a way to sort of address that evil within you and that and use it in some way, that it was going to manifest itself in another way, and it's going to be very, very, very destructive to either, well, to both people around you as well as yourself. And so,
Yeah.
what like you can draw on people that you've worked with or yourself, but like how do you do that practically? Like how do you recognize, or what have you seen in someone else where it's like, okay, this is something, this is a piece of me that's evil. And like how do you use that so that you're not repressing it, so that you're not suppressing it, so that it doesn't come back to destroy your life later on?
Yes. Well, I think so you don't burn your house in that.
Right.
Well, I think the first step that when they come to therapy, uh, people need to accept themselves as they are. You know, I usually ask them like, give me a description of yourself. You know, with your flaws and your virtues and that. So people tell you, this is my flaw, these are my virtues, and we we try to make or I try to make the patient, okay, you need to accept your flaws, your dark parts, because we all have dark parts. For example, you might have an anger issue, you might be, I don't know, maybe evil with your partners, with your co-workers, and you write it on, but also you have to accept that, you need to know that you are, you are not good all the time. So okay, you have these bad things and you have these good things, and you have to accept them both. I won't tell you just that, oh, you are very, you have to accept just your pretty parts. No, you need to accept the whole, because we are this circle, like this full circle, and it's okay. But let's not misunderstood that, because you might think that, okay, I went to the psychology, I accept myself, I'm an evil person, and that, no, 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 it's not like that. If you had good things, we need to work with those things, so they can be better, even better than they are. And now that we identify these bad things, like maybe you are a jealous person, a possessive person, we need to work on them. Some of them, Brandon, you won't be able to eliminate it completely, because they are part of your character, your temper, not even your character. Your temper is how you were born. Some people have this easy temper, some people have hard temper, and maybe you won't be able to change that temper. But this is where psychology comes in. You need to educate your temper, and you need to educate your character. So we try to fix, or we try to manage those bad habits or bad thoughts, or that darkness, so the person can use those, on its benefits, and it's not gonna be hard for them to have them in their life. For example, if you get mad easily, I'm gonna teach you some ways that you can control that anger. Maybe just time out. When you feel this anger into you, you just take this time out from everything. And I'm not gonna take away that anger from the person or their temper, but he will know how to manage and how to uh, be more conscious of them without causing pain to other people or even themselves, because they don't feel very good about them either. But they can, have this emotional intelligence to manage those bad feelings, though that darkness that Carl Jung mentioned. Yes, that's what we
Yeah.
do.
Well, it's so important, and people absolutely need to understand where their evil lies. And I learned this from a young age, because I've always, this might surprise people, it might not surprise people, but I'm actually quite naturally aggressive.
Yes.
And even though, like, because anyone who like follows the podcast and my Instagram page, like, I'm pretty calm in how I have debates with people, and I'm generally pretty calm in how I pick apart arguments and not call people idiots. Like, I try and focus on the argument. But I'm actually very naturally aggressive. I've just learned over my life how to actually harness that for good, or not even well, it is harnessing it for good, but it's more like how to deal with that evil side of me. So I recognize that from a young age. One of the things that I've used to do that is actually strength training. And that's why, I have my podcast is the Strong Stoic Podcast. Strength is in there for a reason. It's because I fundamentally believe in strength, and strength and perseverance and getting through those hard times. But strength is also what has allowed me. It's been the vessel through which I'm able to get rid of my evil. And so
Yes.
I strength train, and I go into the gym, and I work really hard, and I lift, well, I shouldn't say really heavy weight, but I lift weight that's heavy for me. Let's say it like that. And it's not like I'm in the gym and I'm all angry and I'm yelling and I'm screaming. It's like, but
Yeah, with it.
yeah, but that's because I've been doing it for so long. So I've been able to focus the aggression into the moment that I actually lift the weight. And so it's no longer, because, like, I know a lot of people that do that. They're so angry, and they go to the gym and they're really angry and they scream and they yell. And I'm not saying that's bad, but for me, because I've been doing it for so long, I've I've learned to focus it on just when I'm lifting. So like if I'm squatting, for example, I'll squat and I'll be intense when I do that, but then after that, I'm okay and I'm friendly and you can talk to me. And it always hasn't been like that. It's taken me a long time to work through that. But like that's, I just wanted to give an example because this is such a hard thing to conceptualize for many people. And it's hard to figure out what you do with it, because you can say, use your evil for good, or figure out how to way to get rid of not get rid of it, but to make sure that the evil within you is being expressed in some way and being dealt with. That's an example for me. And if I stop going to the gym, I get very irritated. I get irritable. I like little things bother me. I get aggressive. I do. I get really aggressive. If I don't train hard for like two weeks now is when I start to, like, if I don't train for, or even like a week, I start to feel a little bit like I'm starting to get a little bit irritated.
Yeah, like and that's another thing. You need to start to identify when you are feeling angry. These little things that tell you that, oh, I feel a little bit uncomfortable, because when you're in a discussion or something, in an argument, immediately you get mad, or like, and you react. And the thing that I tell to my patients is like, okay, when you are in a fight with your husband, with your girlfriend, with your son, you need to start to identify these little uncomfortable feelings your body tells you. You get tense, and you feel like, uncomfortable. And when you identify those things, because your body has a body language, it's gonna tell you even before you think. So you need to identify those things. And what I tell them, like, identify those things. And if you feel that you are not capable of controlling them, like, or you're realizing that you're having them, just stay away. It's not going to be a good time to have an argument. Just go for a walk, and that's a good way. Go to the gym, or I don't know, go to your room, and I don't know, hit a pillow or everything, but don't stay in the problem, because it's going to be messy. If you just start to feel this, and then you won't be able to control. If you want to control your character, you have to identify the little things. So be very conscious, and be very aware of your own body, because it gives you little signs. When you feel them, just calm down, breathe, and just go for a walk. And when you come back, you will be feeling so much better. And sometimes it's such like an easy things. When I tell them, when you get mad, go for a walk. And it's like, how is that going to help me? A walk is not going to. Yes, it's going to help you. You're going to be relaxed. Your brain is going to be more relaxed. And when you get home, you will be able to see things with a different perspective, with less aggressiveness, and everything is going to work for you. So those are those little homeworks that you have to do at your home. And you can do that in therapy. I mean, I can teach you, I don't know, how can you relax at the moment. But when you are in the problem, you must do your homework. And that's the thing that I tell you, that I see as a little bit of problem. People don't want to do the homework at their homes. So they have to, if they want to see changes, and they have to repeat this exercise, and they have to do it every day. It doesn't matter if you skip one day, forget it, do it again and do it again until it gets right. It gets done right. And that is the thing about psychology. Actually, it's very, I don't know, very scientist, like, do this and you will get that. Yes. So that's what I think about darkness and light, Brandon.
Yeah, it's so true. And I want to zoom out a little bit. So we've talked about regression and suppressing the evil within you. I want to zoom out, and this is where it gets very complicated for me to think about, but from Carl Jung had this idea of the collective consciousness and the collective
Ah, yes.
unconscious. So
Mm-hmm.
the danger in this, because you could say, okay, if I repress my evil, if I don't think that I'm evil, that's just going to affect me and the people around me. But it's actually not true. What actually ends up happening, this is what Newman believed. He thought that as a society, which is just made up of individuals, when they repress the evil within themselves on an individual level, and they say that they are incapable of evil, what ends up happening is you do this subconsciously, but you end up making a scapegoat. And this is what he thinks happened during World War II, or particularly during the Holocaust, is that the Germans would, because they've been repressing and suppressing their evil, is they put it on a group of people, the scapegoat. And so now you're assigning a group of people as evil, and because you are unwilling to accept the reality of your own evil. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to highlight that it's so important that each individual is able to understand their own capacity for evil, so that as a society, as a collective conscience, as a country, you don't put all of that evil on one group and make them the scapegoat and sacrifice them, because that's what's happened throughout history so many times. And we have to be very careful that we don't do that again, because that, I mean, it's horrific, right? The things that have happened, right?
Yeah, story repeating. Imagine, no, that's the word. History is for learning, not for repeating the same mistakes. But yeah, I think what you're talking about is that we all have evil, you know. But imagine this evil in a mass, in a bunch of people, you know, in a collective, a big mass of people. You are going to think that is right, you know, and not because everything or everyone is doing it is right. That's the way. That's the conscious that you should have. I remember that I used to get so frustrated for the world and its evil itself. I was like, no, people, it's so mean, the world, and you know, everything is bad. And I start to realize, oh my God, I can change the world. I mean, the world, it is what it is. You know, even if you're here or if you die, the world has its own course. You know, it has its ways to work, but it's not going to change. But what is going to change is the way that you act. You know, I mean, if you have this idea of changing the world, you're going to be very frustrated, Brandon. You know, you won't be able to change the world because, come on, it's a lot of people. Even when you're in a couple, in a relationship, it's very hard to understand the other person. So what you must do, or the best thing that you can do, is change yourself, you know. And if you want to be a virtuous person, just because of the benefit that you're going to have for yourself, not for the recognition of the world, you know. And I think that's a misconception that people have. Oh, okay, I want to be a good person, I want to be more kind, so another people recognize, you know, I'm going to give you this, but I want you to give me something back, or recognize that I'm a nice person. And from that, you're wrong. If you're doing a right thing, for the recognition of the other person or the world, then you are doing the things wrong. You have to be a virtuous person. You have to do the inner work, or working on your issues for yourself, because that's the only thing important. Because the recognition is exactly feeling yourself good. There's nothing left. There's nothing else that you can feel. So whatever you're going to do, if you want to get better, if you want to be a virtuous person, just do it for yourself. Because if you, as I'm telling you, are expecting that someone recognize your work, of course it feels good, yeah, but that is a plus, you know. It's not the main point. Do it for yourself because it works for you, because you want to be a better person. Just stop caring about the evil of the world. The evil of the world is going to be there forever, you know. But what can you do for change? Well, in your family, in yourself, with your friends. That is the most important thing. And that is the most important change that you are going to make in the world. And if you're lucky, you might inspire other people to do the same as you are doing. But I think the price is that you feel good with yourself. That's the way I think.
Well, the Stoics were really against virtue signaling. And that's really what it is, because that's what you're saying is like, if you're going to be virtuous, don't do it so that people look at you and say, man, that guy's virtuous. It's like, that's not the right reason to do it. You do it because you fundamentally believe in being virtuous, in the virtues. And this is something that people struggle with when they first start learning about Stoicism, because to summarize what you said there, the best thing for you to do for the world, like, so if you're looking at the world and you're saying the world is crap, it's evil, it's full of evil people, the best thing you can do for the world is to fix yourself. And so the Stoics knew that. And what the Stoics would say, and that's why CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy is built on that. What the Stoics would say is like, okay, and this is what you do in therapy. You say, here's a philosophy that works. This is what you are going to do. This isn't to say that this isn't going to help the world. Of course it's going to help the world, but that doesn't matter because you shouldn't even focus on that. Right now, you personally have a lot of problems. Here's what you can do for you. And in doing so, this is what they don't say. In doing so, you're going to help the world. But because they don't say that, because it's kind of irrelevant. It's like, just focus on what you can do. And if you make yourself better, and if you make yourself more virtuous, the world will be a better place. And that's what, and people get confused about that with Stoicism, because they say, I just shared on my story, on my Instagram story not too long ago, but there's a lot of people that think that Stoicism is a pursuit that is only done by and for yourself. They think a Stoic is someone who doesn't care about society, who doesn't go out in social settings.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, no. That's like,
no. Yeah, exactly. You're getting wrong.
Not at all. Stoicism, fundamentally, it's about making the world a better place. But the focus is on what you can do as an individual. And that's why the philosophy is built around what you can do. And it doesn't talk too much about the world because it's out of your control.
Yeah. I was thinking about what you are saying, that people think that Stoicism is such a cold philosophy, a selfish philosophy of life. And I disagree with that, because actually it's the opposite. It's not selfish, because when you improve yourself, of course, you're going to have an impact on your world, in your surroundings, your family. I can tell you from myself, since I've been practice Stoicism, even my husband tell me that, oh, I want to be, it's like, oh, that's great. Or my daughter, oh, mom, I think I like this. And that's the point, that you inspire. Stoicism never said that you be antisocial, that you don't go to parties, that you stay at your house all the time and you are this saint. Of course not. Actually, it's very pro-social, because as you were saying, if you change yourself, it's like this domino effect, and even when you change the way you think, Brandon, it changes your perspective of the world. I think in everything in life is about perspective. I mean, of course the world is an evil place sometimes. I mean, there is bad people out there, and you can do anything about it. But when you change your perspective of the world, everything changed. You're not in this defensive position against the world, because if you are like hating the world all the time, and yeah, of course, the world is evil, but you're going to be very defensive, and you're going to be angry, and you're going to be not even able to socialize in a good way with other people. So first thing, I think you need to accept the world. It is what it is. You won't change the world, and you have to accept that. And the best thing that you can do is actually take responsibility, as I was telling you about the responsibility. Take responsibility. Of course, try to be motivated, have discipline, and focus on yourself. And as a result, your perception of the world will change. And it might sound like a cookie recipe, but it's like that. I mean, it's some steps that are going to take you to somewhere. And as I was telling you, you can go to 0 to 100. So first, accept your flaws, the good and the virtues and the good ones, and then you change the bad ones, or try to educate them. And if you have a lot of virtues, well, make them bigger and be a better person. That's the best thing that you can do for the world, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And people say, because like you said, there's evil people out there, and really everyone has a little bit of evil within them, but the focus should be on the evil person within you. that's the one that you have the power to fix. You don't have the power to fix anyone else's evil except for your own. And that's where the focus needs to be. And that's what Stoicism is about. That's what therapy is about. It's recognizing your flaws and your evil and finding a way to deal with it, and not blaming externals, not blaming the world, not blaming your parents, because it's out of your control for one, but it's also the best thing you can do is fix yourself. I want to switch gears a little bit because I wanted to talk about being nerds.
I mean,
So,
yeah, okay.
So
what are you suggesting that I'm a nerd?
I'm not suggesting. I'm going to,
because I am, Brandon. I am a nerd.
Okay, I am suggesting you're a nerd then. So I've spoken about this before, about how I think nerdiness is somewhat shunned in society, and what I've always seen nerdiness as is sort of like this childlike passion for something, right? Like when you see someone that is telling you about something that they're really passionate about, and they get like a little kid, like they start talking really fast, and they're like, and then they saw this, and then I did that, and it was so nice.
Excited and everything, like yeah.
They're so excited, and you're looking at them, and it's like it's a little awkward for you because you're looking at this, and they're sort of like in their own little head, in their own little world, and yeah. So it makes you feel a little awkward. And I've been both people. I've been the person that's been nerdy, and I've been the person that's been like, okay, this is a little weird.
Yeah.
But just because you feel a little weird about it, I think that we need to learn how to celebrate that. We need to recognize what that is, that's people's passions coming out. And it doesn't matter what it is. Like I'm a fan of Lord of the Rings. I'm a fan of Star Wars. I read way too many books. What else are my nerdy tendencies? There's a third one. Harry Potter.
Do you like anime? Maybe I like anime.
Dragon Ball Z. I do like anime. Dragon Ball Z.
I like it. Yes.
So yeah, so like I'm a nerd in so many ways. And I've always embraced that, but we do seem to get a little weird when other people are experiencing that. And so what do you think about that? Because I know, again, I'm implying that you are a nerd, but I know because we've talked about this personally a little bit.
I'm a little bit nerd. But let me tell you that it is, I don't know, it is this culture of nerd that when you're a nerd or have this passion, this passionate thing about, or this feeling, you always seem, or people always seem you like a weird person, and we don't like to feel weird, we like to feel accepted. And when I was younger, I remember that I want to be accepted for maybe for the wrong reasons, no? And I was repressing my real interest. I remember that since I was young, I liked philosophy, psychology, but I remember that I didn't talk about that with my friends because they were into other things. They were into parties, into drinking, into socializing, looking pretty or handsome, and being very, I'm not telling that it's a bad thing, those things, right? But I'm not saying that was what fit to me, but what made me happy. So yeah, I kind of hide my weirdness. I never tell them that I like anime or philosophy because I wanted to be accepted. And I think we hide weirdness because we want to be accepted. But we are wrong because we want to be accepted by the wrong people. Because if you want to be with the right people, with the persons that are good for you and that are going to accept you for who you are, you need to be who you are. You need to show them your weirdness, your nerdy, your I don't know, the parts that are not, the more pretty parts of yourself. And I don't know, maybe when I was 20 something, I realized of that, and I was like, whatever, I'm tired. I need to be myself because it's gonna make me feel better. It's gonna make me, I don't know, it's gonna bring me the best people for me. And I did. And I stay away from the wrong kind of people for me, or the people that I wasn't happy, that I wanted to try to fit in, but I wasn't really happy. And when I start to talk about my weirdness, my nerdy things, I connect with a lot of people with the same interests, that I had, and I was the happiest. I finally could be myself. I could finally be this weird person, if you want to call it, or this nerdy, and I didn't have to put a mask. And I think that's the greatest part of growing up, of having this maturity. Of course, when you are younger, you are gonna try to find your identity, and you are gonna be maybe a dark, or maybe a nerdy, or maybe a, I don't know, an anime person, whatever. It's about finding yourself. But once you find what you like, I think you should stuck to it and be yourself. And I don't know, be with your right tribe, if you want to talk like that. I mean, with the right person that are going to be for you. But it's a process. I think it's a process that we all need to pass. And it only comes with maturity when you learn to be yourself completely. And it's a process because it never ends. Where I am right now, I probably won't be in 5 years from now, because that's the good things about humans. We change. And it's amazing that we change. I mean, if I ask you, are you the same Brandon that you were 5 years ago? I mean, you might be in
No,
your
not even
essence,
2 weeks
I don't
ago.
know. No, exactly. you don't get into the same river twice. Exactly, to say, you never get into the same river because the river is changing. So yeah, that's a good thing. But just embrace your. I will tell you that, and people, I will tell them to embrace their weirdness. It doesn't matter what other people think. I mean, they are not going to even remember you in 3 years from now. So be you. That's the most important part. Be yourself. Be happy. As long as you don't hurt anybody or you don't hurt yourself, I think everything is fine. That's what I
Yeah,
think
well,
about weirdness.
that's like, to me, that's the fountain of youth. Like, have you ever seen someone who's like in their 60s or 70s, and I don't know, you go to a water park or something and they're just running around like a little child, and you're like, wow, that's so cool. Like, this person is like 60 or 70, but they still have that kid within them. Like, we all, like, it's almost like when you get to a certain age, we love that in people. It's almost like, when you're 60 or 70 and you're dancing and you're having fun and you're doing things like kids, people are like, man, I want to be that person. Yet when we're 20, when we're 30, when we're, a teenager, we want to suppress that because it's not cool. It's
Yeah.
like, who looks back on their life and is like, man, I'm so glad, I looked cool when I was 15 years old. Like, I'm so glad that I didn't do what I wanted to do because, I wanted to be cool and I wanted to be popular in school. Like, nobody thinks that. People are always like, they think about like
Nobody
the
thinks.
passion. They think about the passion they have. They think
Actually,
about the
yeah.
family.
Actually, I do this exercise. It's a kind of weird exercise, but I think I think about my funeral. Like, when I die, and when I'm over in my funeral, how do I want to be remembered? Like, do you want to be remembered for being pretty popular, the stronger, the smart? How do you want to be remembered? And when you actually, I recommend you to make a list. Like, how do you want to be remembered? And when your friends say, "Oh, I remember Naya for this or that," it's not going to be important. A lot of things that you think that are important, no one is going to remember about your car, your clothes, if you were the handsome or the prettiest or whatever. They're going to remember for other values. Like, I would love to be reminded as a kind person, as a person who did something or give something to the world. I don't want to be remembered as the kid that, or the woman that had the best taste in clothes. It's like, it's not my goal. But you get lost in the routine, in the life, and you think those things are important, and they distract you from the real meaning of life, which is a completely different thing. So I recommend you to do that exercise, and it's gonna change your perspective a lot. And you put this list, and, oh, I want to be reminded as this person. And maybe you are not. And if you want to be reminded as that, you can work on that. You can aspire to be like that. I have this, like this utopic Naya that I would love to be. Like, oh, she has these qualities, and which I don't have, of course, but I would love to. And whenever I have a problem or something, I ask myself how this Naya will act, and I try to act according to those values. So that's a great exercise that I do. It might works for you.
Yeah, well, it's great.
Hopefully.
Like, and people always remember how you made them feel. This is something I've been working on for the last 6 months or so. I've tried to, every time I talk with someone, you can't do this with everyone you meet, but whenever even if it's someone I've just met, a stranger, particularly strangers, but even like my friends, I'm going into it thinking, okay, I want this person to leave this conversation with a good feeling, with for lack of something less corny, I want them to leave it with like hope for the world,
Yes.
right? And I know that's so corny, but
Hmm.
like that's sort of what I've been telling myself for the last 6 months is like whenever I talk to someone, I don't want them to be like, okay, that's just another person. And this isn't an ego thing. I'm not, I don't want them to be like, oh man, that guy's like really cool. No, I want it to be like, I want it to be an exchange between two people where we're both present, where we both have some sort of connection. And I know that's a lot to ask, and I know you can't get that for everyone, but at the same time, I think we underestimate the connections we can have with strangers because we're all human and we're all so similar in a psychological sense and in a social sense. And I think for me, especially as an introvert, that's been a goal that I've been trying to get better at. I've been trying to get better at being present when I meet people and connecting and having them leave the conversation with maybe just a little bit more hope for humanity, if I can do that at all. So
Yes.
I'm all for that. That's a great exercise.
Well, you do very fine. I feel very comfortable today.
I'm trying. It's
Well,
yeah, I mean it's all practice, but it's like you said that what you said there about like what do I want to be remembered by?
yes,
That's sort of like the Stoic practice of memento mori.
memento mori.
It's
Yes.
like we're gonna die someday. So who do I want to be while I'm here?
Yeah. How I want to be remembered, and it's not just having this idea, because of course we must and we need to have aspirations, but it's not just, we need to try not to let them in our minds, because maybe in your mind you have all these goals and all these virtues, but in your mind they are not going to do anything. You need to put them in practice, and to put it in practice is actually to wake up and have this mindset that I'm going to be better, and even write it. I mean, to me it works perfectly to write everything, like how do I want to be, what do I want to be, what values do I want to have to myself, but it's not just thinking. You have to put in, you need to write them, make a draw or whatever, and once you put them in there, it has more like personality, I don't know, and more life, and you can try to follow more those things. So I recommend to have a diary, and every day in the morning or in the night, I'm sorry, um, you just question yourself, like, what have I done today? What did I do good? What did I do wrong? How can I get better? How could I improve this situation? Or, so it doesn't take you by surprise. If you have a problem that you have been experienced for a long time, you need to have a plan. It's not like, oh, in your mind, like, oh, next time I'm going to do this. No, you don't have to think about it. You need to write it. Okay, I had this discussion or this argument with my boss, and I act this way, which was wrong. So how can I act different the next time so the results are different? But you need to write that. And when you have this, I don't know, these things right, you need to act accordingly. So it's going to be easier. So the next time you are in front of that situation, it's not going to take you by surprise. You will remember, oh, I wrote that and I say that I will be more calm in this, and you practice and you do it. That's how you get things done. Not just by thinking, because thinking is fine, but you need to be pragmatic. You need to act. That's the most important thing. And that's what cognitive behavioral therapy does, Brandon. And that's what I love this therapy, because it's very practical. It's very practical. It gives you, this is the problem right now. How are we going to solve it? How you perceive your problem, and what are we going to make about it? And I think it's very practical for the moment, for the life right now that we are living. And it's a very short therapy, maybe 6 therapies, more 12 at top, but I think it works. And I have seen a lot of change on people, behavioral changing. So I love my therapy.
Yeah, I can definitely see the passion for the job. So it's really great to see, and it's got to be so rewarding. And it's really such a pleasure to talk with someone that's so into their job. We're coming to near the end here. I want to end on this note. So I've been to Mexico. Okay, so let's back up. Naya is Mexican.
I'm from Mexico. So sorry, my English. I was trying to do it my best.
No, your English is great. No. I want to end on.
Thank you.
So Naya's joining us from Mexico, all the way from Mexico. Most people probably know I'm Canadian. So we are on either side of the United States of America, both geographically and culturally.
Yes.
Because I've been thinking about this, as I do with weird things all the time. So I've been to Mexico several times, as I told you. I've spent quite a bit of time with Latinos in general. So I'm sporting the sugar skull here.
The calavera.
So, yes, there you go. So that's the sugar skull.
Para el Día de Muertos. For Halloween, yes. But we call it Día de Muertos in here.
Day of the Dead, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's my favorite shirt, actually. I actually didn't buy it in Mexico, but it's obviously it's a Mexican themed. Yeah. Behind me here, there's a sugar skull right there.
Yeah. I've noticed that.
That is a traditional Mexican mug.
Yeah, we put those things on November 1st. So we have this believing that I don't know, family comes to visit us. So we put the skulls and whatever food is favorite for them. So yes, it's a Mexican tradition.
And then the last thing I have there is a little mortar and what's it called? Mortar and pestle, which you grind up spices. It's very small.
Yeah, molcajete. Es un molcajete. I think it's a molcajete.
Molcajete, there we go.
Molcajete.
Yeah, my Spanish isn't great. Really... But so I spend a lot of time with Latino people, and I love different cultures, and I wanted to ask you what you think, being aware, of course, that you're probably a little biased because you're Latina, but what do you think the world can gain from your culture? And maybe let me start with what I've taken from your culture.
Yeah.
I see that Latino people tend to be so warm in terms of how they talk with people. When you greet your friends, you generally hug, you generally do like a fake kiss on the cheek. And so I've spent a lot of time with Latino people, and whenever I go to my friends that are not Latino, I actually miss that. Even though at first it was a little awkward, right? Because you don't know what to do. And when I was in Italy once, and I almost kissed a guy right on the lips because we got the timing wrong. But as I've been more as I've been more into that culture, I actually miss it. I actually miss that just that social warmth. So for me, that's what I've taken from your culture that I think maybe would be worth spreading to the rest of the world. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Mexican culture, well, speaking for myself, we're very warm, and we don't take things too seriously, I think we know that life is a moment, and we try to live our best, and we really enjoy the family values. For us, we appreciate a lot spending time and quality times with your family. For us, it's very important your friends, to show them, not only with words, because for us it's very important when you say I love you, it's not just like I love you. We like to feel the warmth, and we like to make people feel very welcome, even if you're from Canadian or you are from wherever you are. We have this warmth, like you're welcome. You are welcome to our home. You are welcome to our family, and we will always receive you with this warm hug that is sometimes kind of weird for other people, because they are like, oh my god, what is she hugging me? But we are like that, we are very touchy. And I think one of the most important thing is that it doesn't matter. You can have a problem, for example, with one person of your family or even with your community, but when the other person have a problem, we all go to help that person. We love to help. We know that when someone needs that help, or I don't know, a catastrophe or something happens, we all get together and we all work together so we can help that person. And we put aside our difference, and we try to help them, and we forget about all the bad things. Like we make a pause and like, okay, let's forget it. Let's try to help this person. And I think that's the most important thing. I think what makes Latin culture so special, I think it's our hearts. We are very warm, and we're very friendly, and our sense of humor are great. What can I tell you, Brandon? I love my culture. So yes, whenever
Yeah,
you want to.
it's got to
Yeah.
be one of the most welcoming that I've been to, and yeah, I've always felt very welcome, and it's not like we don't talk about cultural differences, because you talk about culture differences and skin color and like everything, all these things that everyone's so afraid and they're going to get offended by. Whenever I've been around like groups of Latinos, like this is the stuff we talk about, and it's in a playful way, and it's fun, and we always laugh, and we always enjoy each other, and there's so much warmth and acceptance. And yeah, I really like that about your culture there. So it's been a pleasure. I've had so much fun talking with you.
Me too, Brandon. Thank you
Thank you
very
so
much.
much for taking some time out of your day and coming to talk to me. It's great to talk with someone that's so passionate about what they do. And of course, CBT is built on Stoicism. And I hope a lot of people got value out of this. Thanks again so much. If people want to find you, where can they find you?
Oh, I only have my Instagram, so it's empty.naya, so they can find me there. I post some of my things, psychology things, and they can find me there. So whenever they want to contact me, I'm open.
I shared
Yeah, it's been a pleasure for me.
Yeah, no. And I shared one of your Carl Jung quotes and got a lot of good feedback on that one. So half your posts, I think, are in Spanish and half are in English. So they challenged me a little bit, but I definitely enjoy
I
seeing
know.
that.
I'm going to try to post more in English, more open, okay?
It's all
Maybe you
good.
can translate them.
It's
No,
all
but
good.
it's been
Yeah.
a pleasure. Thank you very much. Honestly, I feel very honored to be on your podcast. I learn from you a lot also, because everything, when I hear you, you always teach me something different. And yeah, that's another thing that is important. You have to be open. You brought me out of my comfort zone. I told you I wasn't sure to make this podcast, and you were like, come on, okay. So I appreciate that, because you put me out of my comfort zone, and that's a good thing, because as I told you before, if you are not changing, then you're not growing. So thank you very much, Brandon. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. My pleasure. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.